Turtles all the way down. I'm Jake, sometimes Jenk. Welcome to episode 10. And we recently had a party at the Junction Salon here. It was the winter solstice gathering that we had where we brought together people that have been on as guests of this podcast. We had people there that were probably likely to be guests someday in the near future. We had some friends and family and fans of the podcast there, and it was a good time. Food and drink was had, and great conversation. And we had a couple of nice DJs playing some excellent tunes that gave it a kind of a festive spirit, as was intended. And I can't help but kind of empathize more with these people that tend to get kind of downtrodden during the holidays and feel a little depressed. I got to say that in my own personal experience, I haven't noticed it much in the past, but the last couple of years, because in the past I used to basically spend a lot of times during the holidays, engage with the family of, my girlfriend at the time probably, and going to their family gatherings. And this past year and this year, no such thing was around in my life. And as a result, I found myself kind of sinking more into you could describe it as a depression, seasonal adjustment disorder, what have you. And it was good to have the party to kind of stem that tide. There's a lot of, there seems to be a lot of reason for people to be down lately. And the holidays just kind of contribute to that and kind of pile on to it in some cases. There's also these, if you're on social media, you're hearing a lot of buzz about these celebrity deaths that keep popping up on our newsfeed. And a lot of the people that, I guess people in my generation that loved and looked up to some of the artists and performers from their youth, they're passing on. And what I'm also noticing is a lot of people seem to think that there's more of this happening in 2016. I mean, I submit that is not the case. There seems to be pretty much a consistent death rate. If anything, it's probably going down and people are living longer on average. But the reason it seems to stick out, I think, is that, and I kind of predicted this in the 80s. It seemed like we were having more and more of these occasions when a kind of a superstar celebrity passes on, and then the networks, rush to get the life story of that person on the TV that night. I kind of predicted that there would be a celebrity death channel, and that turned out to be true. It's called the biography channel, and whenever somebody famous dies, they've got their biography in the can that they put out. But this is now happening on Facebook a lot quicker. And, there would have been a time when somebody famous that I even probably cared about a great deal would pass, and I might not even hear about it for months later. And that was pretty typical. So you never got the sense that there was a deluge of people passing on. You would just occasionally hear it now and then. But keep this in mind. I mean, we've had this hyper explosion of media over the last few decades, and it continues to get more and more. We used to be just 3 TV networks, so there was a limited number of celebrities. Then we've got the 1,000 channel universe, and in order to fill up all that time for content, you had some other ways of star making, whether it be reality TV or notorious people in the news. They tended to get a lot more attention. And with the internet now, I mean, this is instantaneous. And also the fact that there are literally thousands, if not millions, on the verge of becoming, somewhat known, achieving celebrity status. And there's going to be what I think more and more of this sensation or this feeling that all these well-known people are passing away. And 2016 seemed to have that impression. And I'm going to bet you 2017 is going to be, it's going to feel just the same in the sense, or maybe worse, because there's actually more people that are famous that are getting old now. And we're going to have to just realize that, as is with the case with a lot of the bad news in the world, whether it be this or others, we just have more instantaneous access to it. We hear about it right away. And as a result, it seems like it's never ending, and it's just piling on top of us. And it's kind of contributing to this malaise, this it's not so much a seasonal adjustment as opposed to I don't know, maybe it's a cultural historical adjustment disorder, in that people are starting to feel overwhelmed by a lot of this complexity that's going on around them. And we see this in the politics. We see it in in the arts and culture. There's a lot of shit going on. Back in my home country of Turkey, there was a military coup this summer, and I had intended to go there likely late in the summer, but that didn't happen as a result of this. It seems to be kind of a scary environment there, in the sense that everyone has become more or less paranoid. We've pretty much given up asking relatives over there what's going on and how they feel about it, because it's almost always a quick, couple of words to shut down the conversation, something to the effect, oh yeah, everything's fine. And I think it's because people are kind of afraid to talk on their phones because there's the paranoia of being, surveyed by the government. And in a place like that, that's highly likely. You got to think that if the technological means exist for that government to have a surveillance on all their citizens, that they will. And I guess I don't blame those people there to be a little bit paranoid about talking about what's going on. But talk is important. If we stifle talk and speech, almost nothing gets done. And the assholes of the world have their way. Because they like to keep people in the dark. What better way to control and manipulate and get people to do what you want other than keeping them in the dark about what's really going on and moving their beliefs and knowledge in the direction that's going to suit the person that's moving the culture in that way. So, much to be, much to be a little upset about these days, but what are we doing here? We're having conversations. I guess in some way we're trying to stem the tide a little bit by talking. And hopefully talking leads to some action. Not necessarily on our part, those doing the talking, but maybe others who are listening. Maybe there could be some inspiration here. So in a way, this podcast is a little bit about public service, probably a lot about public service. I guess I'd just like to do something, but at the same time, admittedly, in a selfish way, I do enjoy it a lot. And it is very therapeutic for me. I realize that I need to talk. I need to get things out. And if I just kept talking, like I used to about all these esoteric and meta subjects that pop up, I could, potentially drive the people in my life crazy, friends, girlfriends, etc. So this is a great outlet. And you get a person in the room here who's also open to talking for a couple of hours, and I've been loving it. So, people are reaching their limits, and I got to say, this holiday season, I feel like I may have reached my limit. I feel sometimes this past week closer than ever to thinking that, that's it. I'm just going to disengage from the world, become more of a hermit, stay in my junction loft and just let things happen around me for a while. But, I kind of get shaken out of that every once in a while. And even though that feels like the more natural inclination on my part to do that, to disengage, I'm kind of pushing ahead because I feel like these conversations are helping me and hopefully are helping others. And we're going to push through. I've had this weird notion that my life seems to go in roughly 12-year cycles, but I guess it's not that weird because it seems to be that there's kind of a historical precedent for this. And even if you think about things like the horoscope and, ancient things like that, they're often split into 12s and the 12 months of the year. 12 is, when you think about it, an amazing number in that very useful and practical. It can be, it can be divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. So as a result, if you're doing any kind of practical business, counting things, moving things around, the 12 became very important way to engage in that commerce. So that's one reason. But just personally, I've noticed that, if you think I mean, there's a more or less range that we're talking about. But the first 12 years of my life, I'm just basically, a kid trying to figure out the world, what's going on, and, getting a sense of some obvious things that aren't so obvious to a child. And it seems like the next 12 years is kind of a lot about education and learning in greater depths about what the world is, and also on your way to becoming an adult in some sense. It seems like the next 12 years, which I guess is like 24 to 36, I had a lot of, in my life in particular, I did a lot of things. I did a lot of, I was doing my PhD. I started a few businesses. I, kept very busy. And I'd have to say probably that epoch of my life was the busiest for me, the most tiring, but I happened to be also the most youthful and energetic at the time, so probably didn't notice it. If you saw me in those days, I'd be working, sometimes 16 hours a day for 7 days a week straight for months at a time. When you're running your own businesses, that tends to be the norm. And somehow able to manage it. And, only years later when I look back, I think, holy cow, how the hell did I get through all that? And the thing is, it did impact me. So, that next 12-year cycle, I guess, roughly 36 to 48 was kind of a dark ages in a way. I mean, it felt like it took me a long time to recover. When I was in those years in business, and when I got out of it, I didn't really do much for a while. I kind of just, I read and I thought, and I didn't really engage with people very much. But it was during that stretch that I came across some of these people that I'm interviewing now on these podcast episodes, and we got into these discussion groups, and things started to feel up again. Moving forward, things started to feel more positive. I've been doing a lot of things since then: filmmaking, writing, music, podcast. And I also feel like, so I'm just starting the next 12-year cycle, and it really feels like something is happening. And that I got a sense that the next 12 years is going to be kind of a meaty part of my life, and that a lot is going to happen. And a lot of these things that I'd been kind of setting into motion in the last few years are about to congeal. And the podcast is a big part of it. And so I'm going to push through, even though the natural inclination is to think, the world's gone to shit. No one's listening. Who gives a crap? Maybe I just need to go into my bunker retreat and let things blow over a little bit. But I got to say, that's probably not the way to go, and that's not the way I'm choosing to do it. Speaking of these 12-year cycles, if you believe in such things, and I mean, this is kind of like speculative stuff, not that I'm deep into this kind of thing, but 1969 was, basically, it's called the Summer of Love. There was a lot happening. There's a lot of social activism, cultural change. And I feel like there's similar things starting to happen now. A lot of people are getting engaged with the world. And the internet and social media has a lot to do with it. It has its downfall in certain ways, that it might be making more people depressed and pessimistic in some ways. But a lot of people are at least getting involved. And 2017 is 48 years after the Summer of Love. And maybe we're having a similar kind of scenario in which people are waking up to, the things that are going around them and demanding more. And we'll see if something comes of that. 2017, I got to say, I'm optimistic, as I am generally for most of the future, despite some of these conversations where I'm talking about all the dangerous things that are on the horizon in the future with regards to technology and culture and politics. But that's always been the case. We're always kind of on the edge, on the precipice of, falling into civilizational disarray. We're constantly trying to keep the torch going. And sometimes we fall into dark ages. And even through those dark ages, there are a group of people that continue to move this tradition along of open thought, open discussion, free speech, and understanding and tolerance. And, we seek to promote those kind of things in our discussions here. Speaking of which, this monologue that we're engaged in right now, between you and me, will probably be, it seems, one of the longer ones that I've had, mainly because, giving you an update on things, it's the year end, but also this episode with Paul Raff is one of the shorter ones we've had. We did have a regular length discussion, but there were some technical difficulties in the first half. And rather than chopping and slicing, I thought the second half kind of stands alone as a very good conversation. And we'll just, so what we're doing here is releasing essentially the second half of our conversation without the first. If we can get around to maybe salvaging it someday in the future, we might release a longer version of it. There was also another episode around that time that we recorded that had some issues as well that may end up not being released. Sorry about that, but we can always have that person come in again and have another conversation. Paul Raff, architect, Toronto-based, also an artist. Hope you enjoyed the conversation. Talk soon.
So do you sort of think that maybe you look a little bit like Mickey Mouse meets Bozo the Clown because you've got big black ears and a kind of giant bulbous red nose? Yeah, because that's what I think you look like right now.
Yeah, let's see what you put your nose. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. A couple of clowns here. Yeah, those books. I read probably 8 hours a day, but not books. It's odd.
Do you read mostly online?
Yeah. That's might be contributing to my damage of my eyes as well, because it's constantly, that screen is, a few inches away from my face.
Oh, you're reading off your phone?
Mostly my iPhone, yeah. And it tends to be, things that are posted on social media, articles. And I tend to have interesting and smart friends who put on pretty interesting articles. So, and it's not that I'm wasting my time on clickbait or listicles, but it'll be an article about physics or sociology or something like that. But it's rare that I read a book these days.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you do, are you reading it electronically or are you reading it paper?
I don't read books much. I have almost exclusively read paper books. Yeah.
Read paper books.
Yeah. My online reading has been shorter form stuff, articles. Yeah.
What about writing? Let's talk about your, you're an architect, but you're also an artist. I consider you an artist.
Okay.
What outlets are you fostering that side of you, do you think, enough, or would you like to do more of that? What's your balance like, basically, between your functional and artistic?
They're just all rolled together.
That sounds pretty ideal, right?
I don't know if it's ideal.
Well, if you can mix your artistic sensibilities with the actual work that you're doing and getting paid for, that seems like that's kind of an ideal work scenario, and that you'd like to make a living at something that is incorporating that side of you.
I would say that's true. There's always a degree of artistic exploration that's happening outside of a kind of businessy circumstance.
Mm-hmm. What do they tend to be?
Exploring places in the world, experimenting with, I'm an architect, I'm interested in environments and spaces, so it's what they look like, how they shift with time, how you move through them, how they affect mood and sense of self, how they structure and facilitate or don't facilitate social relations and interactions. So, I was in New York riding the subway downtown from uptown and was peeling away on a express train, peeling away from a local train beside it, and the rhythm of the dark and light flashes and the windows and the sounds, and it separating and pulling away was a cinematic, beautiful experience.
And did you record that in your memory, or do you try to record any of that in
I used
electronic
to. In my younger years, I did a lot of photography and video. I never showed it or published it or anything.
Why is that?
It's just like journals for a writer. It's just part of exploration. So my official work, which I, put my name to and get commissioned to do, tends to be the design of buildings and public spaces. I'm just finishing off working on a small new public park in central Toronto near Yonge and Sheppard.
Oh, wow.
And that's where the things that are explorations and experiments get put out as concrete things in the world. Yeah.
Wow. That's kind of an enviable position to be in. I mean, there's a lot of artists that will create things, but the impact that they have is almost universally very limited. But in your case, if you're doing a public art project, you're going to have literally millions of people see it.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much I'm really, changing the world or affecting their lives. So I'm not sure how big the impact really is. I'm sure there are short speeches and small phrases that people have uttered in history that have had more impact than all of my buildings put together.
Possibly, but it's not impactless. So this square that you're describing, is it the whole square you're designing, or is it an aspect
there are
of
a
it,
lot of people involved in the design of a public space. As a landscape architect and an architect and other artists and so on, and we're, so I'm part of a process. So, for example, it's an arts-themed park, and I suggested that maybe a space which seemed to have a natural slope and curve to it might actually have an amphitheater where art could actually happen with a performance and a performer, and that got built into the park. So there's a new public amphitheater which you can use. That, I guess that was some positive impact on the world.
Right.
The disadvantage of my art is that I like to make big, somewhat permanent things in the world. Those tend to cost a fair bit of money. I can't just record tracks using my laptop and some headphones in my basement, or smear pigment on a canvas or whatever. It's more like making a sizable film or something. You need to coordinate a lot of people and a lot of dollars and.
So
efforts.
if there was another medium that you could work in that wasn't susceptible to those shortcomings, and by that I mean the requirement for large sums of cash and resources and people and groups to do, what other outlet
I love
would you do?
Yeah, I like writing. I like I like writing that borders between fiction and nonfiction. I like poetry.
Cool. Tell me more. What do you mean bordering on fiction? So is it starting off in a personalized or fiction?
Well, things that are very much. I mostly read nonfiction. I read articles. I love book reviews.
Yeah, me too.
It's a near addiction. Yeah, I find that they're interesting because you enter immediately into a discourse. There's the reviewer and the book being reviewed, and then there's usually a territory. Someone's written a book because they've got something to say about something,
right? And
someone's trying to explain and interpret that and contextualize it. I find that's a very kind of useful discourse to enter. So myself, I've been reading book reviews for more than 10 years now. I've probably read thousands of them.
Yeah, it's almost like I sometimes feel like I can fake it and intelligently speak about books I haven't read because I read the reviews. At least you get the gist.
Well, that's the risk, that it's a little bit shallow, but you can't know
right.
You can't know a lot about everything. Yeah. So medium-wise, I love a lot of arts. My personal favorite thing, if I'm going to actually electively engage in some sort of art as an audience member, right. I love avant-garde dance more than anything.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
To watch or to do?
Oh, to watch. I have no inclination, talent, or interest in doing it. Yeah, none whatsoever.
And how would you describe avant-garde dance? Is it choreographed or improvised?
It's choreographed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's like they almost need to have different names that we call the different types of dance, because we call the chicken dance a dance and we also call that it's a dance, but then we or the country line dancing or something, but
that's a dance.
It's a dance, of course, but it's very much regulated and pre-structured, and you're thrown into this framework in which you are to follow the lines.
Yep, nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that, yeah. Then there's a whole other kind of dance, which is kind of an orgiastic, ecstatic, expression of whatever the music is
We
doing
have
to
to
the
suppress
person.
that.
Yep.
No, there's nothing wrong with that either. Yeah.
Hold on. Let's mind this here for a bit. So what is it about that? Is it the fact that it's too revealing? Because I got to tell you, I prefer that latter form of dance myself to do
As a participant or an audience member?
As a participant,
Yes.
and even as an audience member. But I got to admit, it's terrifying to do that in public. And it took me a long time to be able to dance in front of people. It's only the last few years, really, that I feel
Are you glad you can?
I am very glad. Yeah.
So there's something to it.
There's, very much so.
It has a satisfaction. It has something worthwhile for you.
Definitely. I think it seems to impact in other aspects of my life as well. I mean, to be honest, it's like the fact that I, a few years ago, was able to dance in front of people probably led me to be able to make music in front of people, which led me to have this podcast and have potentially lots of people listening to it.
Do you dance alone?
I do.
Yeah. And is there anything wrong with that?
Not at all.
Is it satisfying? You get something from it? You must. You do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's not the same as dancing in a social context.
No, you know what? It's probably even actually less stressful. But there's something to be said about, I probably take less advantage of that because they say, if you dance in front of a group, that there's that added benefit of being part of this larger networked being or whatever you want to call it. But I don't necessarily key into that.
Well, then why was it important to you to learn to do?
It was more about being comfortable in revealing myself.
So this is
Even though
this
it's
is a
not
form of
necessarily
therapy for you
I
in
think
getting
so.
socially comfortable,
I think
or
so.
and maybe it's both, or is it giving you access to something that has valuable? And now the question is, I'm asking you, Jake, what is the value in being able to dance in the same room as other people dancing to the same sounds?
Yeah, I don't have
as you
a
doing
good
it
answer
alone.
for that. You're right.
There's something to it. I can tell you that because in my research on architecture, I was once, talking to an organization which was going to build a winery in wine country, and I thought to myself, okay, well, what is this about? You got to harvest the grapes. You got to, take it. You got to mash them up, and you got to distill them, and you need all this equipment. And you need certain temperatures, humidity, processes. Blah, blah, blah. And then I watched all the people coming to wineries. And I asked myself, why are they coming to these wineries? One thing I can tell you about them is not many people go to wineries alone. And they love the terroir. They love that they're in a landscape, that somehow the grapes have something to do with the land and their tasting. Ultimately, my conclusion is that it was about sharing an experience. And that social dimension of sharing was absolutely essential to whatever was driving those people to consider spending their time and money with loved ones or with other people doing that as opposed to bowling or playing video games or anything, talking into large foam blob covered microphones. There's something to that. And people, I'm sure lots of people like to dance alone, but people clearly like to dance together, even if it's with complete strangers or with their friends or with a potential lover or whoever you might be dancing with.
That's a big part of it.
There's something there. There's something driving and meaningful.
I think if you scratch the surface of almost any human cultural practice, you find that a lot of it is significantly has something to do with the fact that we as mammals like to be around other mammals.
Share.
And
We like to
share and do things together and experience things together.
Yeah.
So, that's definitely true. But when it comes to dancing in front of other people, you're making me think about this. And, it is kind of a therapeutic in my case. But in a way, to me, here's the funny thing. When I was younger, I always liked to dance alone. But the very few times that I would dance in public would have been amongst strangers. Yeah. I found it more difficult to dance in front of people that I knew.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's a similar, okay.
Yeah. I'll tell you what worked for me is to close my eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I effectively can't dance publicly with my eyes open. And I have no problem with my eyes closed.
You don't know what to do with your hands? Or
I just I feel like my the visual input just takes over, and the rest of me suffers from a lack of mental being plugged in. I just don't know what to do. But if I close my eyes, I can do it.
And do you find yourself doing small movements, or is it like large gesticulations, or do you have a certain groove that you get into?
I don't really know the answer to that. I don't dance a lot. I don't love to go dancing. I get that other people do. I have enjoyed it on occasion. I generally prefer to dance alone. I dance a fair bit with my children.
Oh, yeah. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah. My elder daughter loves Lenny Kravitz, and we dance.
Wow.
Yep.
Cool. Well, you have a lot of music in your family, I guess. Your wife is a musician.
I am married to a violinist, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that's great for the kids, isn't it? They must have a lot of exposure to the music.
It's a little different from what you might think. I have, for example, a friend who grew up in a musical family where holidays were around the piano singing songs, Christmas carols, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, taking turns playing guitar, putting on performances for each other. That's fun in family life. And when I am with her family and have been over time, I think it's a lovely, lovely way to live. That is not how music works in my family, and historically in Sarah's family as she grew up. Music was rather a serious activity. Practice is a disciplined thing.
Interesting.
I can't ask her to just... I learned this early on when I met her. I asked her if she could play me something. And she said, sure. And I said, like, now? And she said, no, I don't have anything prepared.
Right.
Like, I didn't know what she was talking about. Like, I would pull out I play a little guitar quite badly. I love it.
There's one right there if you want to pick.
I'm not shy.
Go for it.
But I wouldn't, I don't think most people probably wouldn't appreciate my playing. I'm not very good at it.
Well.
But it's a different thing for me. For her, it's, a discipline, a form of great, excellent, serious work to do. She never does and won't perform unless something's concert ready, which means it is.
Wow.
It is ready.
Yeah, that's a whole different approach.
Yeah,
right?
it's a different thing. It's beautiful. I feel in some ways a little bit the same way about my work. I'm not going to, release drawings for a building or anything else to be constructed unless I feel like it's ready to go. I'm not,
Yeah, I guess that it's kind of analogous to the dance. It's like there's what she seems to be is the structured, thought out notation, and then following it to precision, but also adding a level of artistic flair to it. That's her own, I guess. Is that at that level of
I don't think
musicianship?
Her own. I don't know if she would say that. I don't. I think it's just musicality and excellence, and there's different ways to play any song or piece. So I guess it is something of one's own, but I don't think she or musicians like her think of it as an expression of themselves.
Right.
I think, and I feel this too. Art's not so much about self-expression, at least not consciously for me.
What's it about?
I can see that it is for other people. I don't know. I do know.
Is it a social thing? Is it if it's not about the individual expression? Is it about integrating with others? Is it what aspect of it is being played out there?
The process or the product?
The process, I'm thinking. Well, I guess the product plays into it. Like, what's the end result, and what is it that's being achieved there?
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to actually kind of make beautiful, really good things in the world. Theoretically, I'm trying to make the world a better place.
Right.
One very, very small situation at a time.
Right.
I would take more on if someone would ask me to. Larger situations. And so it's about, making things that that are artistically original and that really resonate, that really make for rich, remarkable, enjoyable experiences, social, individual, for people. And I practiced as an artist for a while before I became an architect, and I was thinking a lot about kind of cultural currents, and I came to be interested in issues of ecology and environmental sustainability, where I started reading statistics about the building performance and the impact on global warming and so on. And that's when I started to realize that there's this architecture that you see in sort of fashionable magazines, high style and cool style and beautiful style and avant-garde style. And then there are these journals for building science geeks who care about, the resources being used by a particular building and whether it, what kind of toxic, makeup it might, blah, blah, blah. And those two magazines or journals or websites don't seem to have any relationship to each other. And that's when the light went off for me, and I realized maybe thinking about how buildings and places can be more environmentally sustainable can be a driver toward new artistic, new stylistic expressions and experiences for people. So that's kind of what my work is mostly all about.
So the form following a newer function, essentially.
Yeah, a newer set of concerns. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds apt. One of the ways that architecture is appreciated is that people write about it. And I realized there was the Globe and Mail had a architecture critic that I think recently passed.
That's right.
Yeah, and I remember he wrote at length about your projects, as I recall, that he seemed to be a fan of yours. Yeah. Is there? I mean, is that continued? Is there architecture critics that are still? I mean, it seems like he's kind of the last of a breed. I don't.
There are architecture critics. I think the discourse on architecture's been evolving. I don't think there was much of one, a long time ago, and then it became part of the kind of high culture media. Most respectable newspapers of, say, the 70s, 80s, and 90s have had an architecture critic, and I think a lot of them still do. That the media landscape's changing. And then, for better or for worse, architecture can be captured and represented in photographs, which are pretty easy to upload an email and post. And so the landscape is changing, pluralizing, and I'm not sure there are sort of Clement Greenberg-like, or strong voices leading critics right now. I'm not sure. There are websites which tend to be more active and seem to play more of a leadership role as venues and potential arbiters of taste and au courant style. The problem with that is that when you get a large enough audience, you tend to feature and maybe even celebrate work that, to borrow a phrase from the late great John Bentley Mays, gratifies taste more than it shapes taste. And good new work, good original artwork in any medium shapes taste. And so I'm not sure what critical voices are out there now who are helping to bring new original work that has the potential to very positively shape taste into focus. I just don't know right now.
Yeah, I can't see that happening going into the future as much, mainly because of the media landscape changing the way it did. I'm already losing track here. So there's some major developments about to happen in Toronto that, like around the King Street West, there was those old warehouses that were, what was the architect? Sorry, the big one.
I think you mean right downtown, the
like the
Frank
near the theaters.
Gary's
Mervish
development. Where a number of very tall buildings have been.
That seems to be kind of a recent subject that maybe architects are talking about. I don't know. Is that something that you sit around and have coffee with other architects and discuss things like that.
When you say things like that, do you mean very, very tall new projects?
Like big new, in the public eye developments that more than, like a lot of people, it's not just an architecture critic that's going to write about it. You're going to have the entertainment section writes about it because it has to do with the movie.
Or urban affairs.
Urban affairs, that sort of thing, where it becomes in the eye of the public at large.
Or even, sort of gossip and societal people,
right.
because it involves some big names, and it's a high-profile site. So I don't know what to say about that. I mean, I think the big names and the flamboyant style of the initial design that was tabled and the sort of media splash that was seemingly intentionally made when it was unveiled was part of an effort to bring attention to it. Why would you want to bring attention to it? Investor interest,
Approvals processes.
Yes, general political will to support it through an approvals process, less likely to have people.
Sounds like a very
against
convoluted political process at that.
Well, city building
scale.
is necessarily convoluted because so many people are involved. And when you're talking about an 80-story tower in the core of a sizable metropolis, it's something that a lot of people are going to have to look at. So, this kind of dense urbanization of the present and the future is necessarily kind of political. Yeah.
They often ask authors to review other authors, but I don't see a lot of architects necessarily writing or talking about art. Is it kind of taboo to?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Criticize? Yeah.
I think what might be an urban myth amongst architects that it's sort of bad form or even against the code of ethics to speak badly about another architect's work. And, there's also just something, if you will, ungentlemanly about it. But I think it would be helpful. I think just because we all live in buildings doesn't mean we're experts on architecture. Just because I spent years going to school doesn't mean I'm an expert in education. Yeah, just because I know a little bit about food groups doesn't mean I'm an expert on nutrition. Yeah. I eat every day, but I'm not an expert on nutrition. So I think it's helpful to have people who are more educated and experienced and have their fingers on the pulse to be involved in important discourses like how we're building our cities. I think it's a very important discourse. Yeah.
It almost seems like a wasted opportunity that there should be more talk like that.
And I think there is. I think we live in Canada and we're talking about Toronto. So in our case, Canada in the last 100 and some years has gone from being very approximately 80% rural, 20% urban, to reversing that to being 80% and increasing urban. And with the population growing, urban issues are key issues of economic, environmental, and social sustainability. The discourse about and actuality about how we make cities is hopefully improving. I'm not sure it is, but should be improving. It's very, very important.
Yeah.
It affects so many people in so many ways. Like I already said, environmental, social, health and social justice and economic impact. So, the number of tall buildings in Toronto doubled in the last 10 years. This is not a trend that's going to reverse. So I think it's good that we're talking about it.
One of the things I notice about, I don't know if it's changed, but it seems like in Toronto, when you're proposing to build something or renovate, they're often asking you to provide parking spaces. Per square foot or per unit or something like that. That just seems so incredibly backwards to me.
Yeah, I wonder if they used to require sort of horse stalls.
Probably.
That is a reality. Is that parking does have.
Is there any movement to change that? Is there any hope of that? Why is it so? Why is it perpetuated?
Well, I don't think the idea here should be that we should do away with thinking about the relationship between transportation and land use issues. Actually, the opposite is true. We need more correspondence between transportation and land use.
Right.
The academics of the world who study urban geography are saying this. That's where I'm getting my information, by reading articles on urban geography. And, I think you talked earlier today about the problem in a very wealthy economy, let's say like downtown central San Francisco, the people who, clean the offices or deliver the packages need to travel 3 hours to get to work because they can't afford.
Nuts.
But if we had efficient transportation systems, that effectively is a platform for affordable housing because you can access more of it reasonably without, spending 3 to 6 hours a day commuting, which is not, healthy. Or
No, it's not good for anybody.
It's not good economically, it's not good socially, and it's not good environmentally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're on those paths. Thanks, Paul. I think we'll wrap up now.
My
Great
pleasure,
conversation.
Jake.
Give me a high five.
All right.
All right. Thanks.
Did you enjoy?
Was that?
You enjoy?
Yeah. It's a bit like being somewhere else for a while.